You made the heavens, planted the earth, gave us stars for direction. But what was it worth if we don't have love? Oh, your perfect love. You filled the oceans, painted the sky, gave us each other. So tell me why, why we're lacking love. Oh, why we're lacking love. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Yeah, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide, my Lord? You know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, you can prophesy, speak in the tongues you made, but if you don't have compassion, how will they understand that we were made from love? Oh, we were made from love. Oh, yeah. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide, my Lord? You know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Oh, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Time to spread more love. Oh, perfect love. Supernatural love. Your love.
Supernatural love. Please support the Osborne Love floating right here, right across the screen. Amazing, amazing song, an amazing moment. Thank you for being here with us. Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild. It's a special version of a cup of grata with a shot of expression and 2 squirts of reality. And oh, look, I've got a co-squirt right now that I am so excited to bring on. She's a modern day medicine woman. Hello, shamanic practitioner, seer, transformational coach, entrepreneur, a blessed bridge to the wisdom of the spiritual and physical realms, weaving together ancient shamanic practices and wisdom from her guides and ancestors with quantum physics, modern day psychology, and the best of the personal development movement. For decades, she's been an advocate for women, a social worker, business coach, healer, and supported the victims of domestic violence abuse, successful female entrepreneurs, women behind bars. Wow, so many accolades, so many incredible things. She brings all of this in service to the awakening of the feminine wisdom here in these challenging and incredibly potent days of women rising here on the planet. Without further ado, Sand Symes, welcome to Cuppa Grata, to Spirituality Gone Wild. It is a pure honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I'm honored to be here. And I have to tell you, listening to that song with the Osborne, oh my gosh, I'm filling up already. It's just, I feel surrounded by love already. So it's beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, it is just such a blessing. And, in reading your bio, what touches my heart so big is the work that you've done with domestic violence. Because to me, that's an incredible space. In my life, I was in that space and I get it. And that's why I say without your dark, you wouldn't know your spark. But what's exciting is that you're here to also bring the tools and the wisdom forward for us to do this thing a little bit easier, and this is something I deeply appreciate. So, and the other is the women in prison. Okay, so Angel Lady movie is all about that, and I can't wait to introduce you to Sherry Myers, who is doing this. But I'm going to actually give it over to you right now, and really let's just dig right in. Let's get a little back history, just how they, what was it like as you were stepping in to fulfill the service that you have been designed to on this planet.
Wow, it's a great question, Debbie. Thank you. I'll start when I was a little girl. So as a little girl, I was able to see energies. I didn't know I could see energies. I just thought that's what the world looked like, right? But I could see different colors or shapes. And sometimes I knew that even as a little girl, there would be a physical presence of another being in the room. And I knew that for some reason, the other adults or the other people in the room couldn't see what I could see. And then when I was 7 years old, and I came to understand this also from my dear teachers later on in life, that round about the 7 year, if you are not safe with some of the gifts that God has given us, then God is benevolent. Our spirit guides are benevolent. So they will shut it down to keep us safe. And what happened when I was 7 years old, we were playing in the streets. It was washing day. I used to live in the northwest of England. So all the sheets were on the line, and we were running through the sheets, playing through the sheets, right? Me and my little friend, 7 years old, and this little boy joined us. And I noticed him immediately because of his laugh, his giggle. He was just giggling and giggling. At first, I couldn't see him. I just could hear the giggle. And then I could see this little boy running through the sheets with us. So when we got called in later for tea, and I was saying to my little friend, who was the little boy that we were playing with? And she said, there was no little boy. And I said, yeah, the little boy we were playing with. And she was, no, there was no little boy. And in my 7-year-old indignation, I described what he was wearing. I said, the little boy with the grey top and the little red shirt and the grey. The next minute, I was being pulled off my chair, dragged 10 streets to my parents' house by a very upset mother who'd accused me of going into her private things because that was the clothes that her son was wearing when he passed over. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So she was really upset, and she had no other reality, as nobody did, no other reality other than I must have found these photographs of him and his clothes. And so I took a beating, and then everything shut down. So my parents were really upset with me at the time because they didn't know I had this gift. I didn't know it was a gift. I didn't know any different at 7 years old. And then life carried on. Life just carried on, and I did notice the world just seemed to have turned its light down a little bit, just a little. At the 7
Yeah.
years old, that was my only like things just seemed to be a little dimmer, and then life carried on. And then in 1996, I started to have visitations. In 1996, and I'm 57, so figure out the math on that one. So in 1996, the first ancestor appeared at the bottom of my bed. I didn't know this being was an ancestor at the time. I just saw the being. And over 5 years, Debbie, I was visited. It started with one ancestor for quite a long time, for about 6 months. And then there were 5, and then there were 20, and then there were 60, and then there were 100, and then there were several hundred. And I had these visitations for 5 years straight, every single night, but I couldn't hear anything. I could see them, but I couldn't hear them. So I got a little bit, indignation again, a little bit later. And I started to throw cushions at them and my pillows and said, you here? You're not talking to me. I can't hear you. Why are you coming to me if I
Yeah.
can't hear you? And I got this, my daughter she ended up not coming in my bedroom for 5 years because she could hear me talking to these spirits, but thought it was going to be a scene from The Exorcist or something if she came in the bedroom. So that frightened her. And it was nothing like that. And it was a benevolent presence. I never in a moment felt unsafe or scared at all. And these beautiful beings were there, but I ended up, seeing them. I'd wake up and they were there, and I go, okay. And I go, I'm not even engaging with you because you're not talking to me. So please let me go back to sleep and stop waking me up in the middle of the night and telling me you're here. When the first place I went for help, as this continued in the first year, I went to the Catholic Church and knocked on Father O'Reilly's door, and I said, I think I'm having these visitations. And he said, shh. Like,
he said, shh.
He said, shh, let's talk like that here. But I think I need to tell you where to go, after I explained what they look like.
Yeah.
And so he actually sent me, Debbie, to my first teacher, who was a teacher that believed in ascended masters and angels and knew that you could communicate with the other side in a particular way. So he was my first teacher. And when I described the beings, they were very, very, very tall. And there were several different interpretations that people had of what these beings were. And I thought what everybody said was true, until I finally heard them for the first time, which took 6 years after they'd first come to visit me. And the first download through my teacher and through a lot of help, my teacher said, you need to be a hollow bone, Sand, in order for these beings, so that you can hear them. It's not that they are not talking to you. The work is on your side. You have to do the work so you can clear out what you need to clear out, so that you could be and in the shamanic practices, the word is a hollow bone, which means a clear conduit. So I had to unlearn everything that I'd learned about God and the universe and spirits and ghosts, because I thought they were ghosts, had to unlearn all of that to be a clear conduit, so that they could finally speak to me. And when they did, they said, we are your ancestors. And I remember just bawling the first time I'm doing it. The first time I heard that voice, it was, and I said, my ancestors, and clarity came a little bit later, but the clarity was, we're not just your ancestors. We are a collective group of beings that are the collective humanity's ancestors, that we are on the planet because, and this was, so now we're talking, if that was 1996, this is like 2002. And they said, the planet is going to need, our assistance at some point. These unprecedented times are coming, and we are preparing many of you on the planet right now, so that when there is a turning point that will happen in our humanity, a choice point, that we get to choose as a humanity which direction we want to move in. And it's kind of like all hands on deck. So we are a collective group of beings that are here. And if people want to tap into us, you will end up helping other people to tap into their own ancestors, to clear out any generational wounding or trauma, old beliefs and patterns that are no longer in service of the ascension of our humanity. So that's a bit of a backstory.
Wow.
This came to be. Yes.
That's actually, it's an extraordinary backstory, because you're one of the ones that started before I did. I'm 54, so and I'm just sitting here going, wow, you were doing that in 2003 or 2 and 3. That's not what I was doing in 2003. Actually in 2003, I was in a different space, but it was still up leveling. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm loving that you continued to pursue what was happening. I'm grateful that you were continuing to pursue. Big wow, right? For our listeners here, yes. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead and start typing them into the chat, and I will absolutely answer them. So let's get back. So you have heard from them, and that you are here. This is part of the clearing of old lineage, ancestry. It's so funny because, Sand, just a couple of days ago, I was telling my husband, I'm like, sweetheart, we are here to break the generational stuff.
Mm.
We're here.
Mm.
That's what we're doing. And I know it can be painful,
Mm.
but we're here to do that. We're breaking the cycles.
Mm. Mm.
And it's such a divine pleasure to know you. Thank you. I mean, yeah, wow is right. That's what I'm just going to bring it up because I don't know who said it, but I mean, really, it just absolutely fantastic. So let's go on from there because I mean, let's face it, in 2002 or three, not everybody is going to be really thrilled about what you're doing. As a matter of fact, they're going to be like, "What are you doing? Have you lost you what?"
Well, even with the teachers that I had at that time in the early 2002, 2003, it was kind of like a hobby. You know, Debbie, I was a social worker. I had to have my feet firmly on the ground. I was a single mom to two beautiful children, my son and
Mhm.
my daughter. So I had to keep my stuff together, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it was as it started to get activated, whatever was inside of me to meet this moment, to meet this invitation, like sacred invitation. So it wasn't that I dropped everything and I ran into a nunnery or something. No, no, no. I was still in a life, you know. And I didn't know how to manifest. I didn't know how to work with it. I was just so grateful I could hear after so long of not being able to hear, you know, the voices. And even with that, I didn't listen to the nudges. And I say that to your audience because many times we don't listen to the nudges that we get from the divine. And we can call that our ancestors or God, our spirit guides, angels, but those beautiful universal cosmic nudges that we get. And they at the beginning, they were saying, we have to, as you tip out everything you thought you knew about God and the universe, we are going to be working with you energetically and to strengthen and amplify what I now know to say my intuition. So it was like, we're going to turn your intuition up to really, so you can hear us and you get the nudges. So you have to, Sand, you have to live this experience before you can teach this stuff. And even when they said early on, you're going to teach this stuff, I never believed them for a million years. I was like, it's never going to happen. I'm a social worker. I'm a single mom. Nah, I don't teach. And like you, I was like, who am I? This is not going to work, you know. And the only person I knew at the time, I think, was Doreen Virtue, because I'd got a pack of angel cards. So that was the
Oh
only.
my god, which ones did you get?
Oh,
Did you
wow.
get the healing ones?
Do you know, this is like 2002, 2003. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what I got. Okay, I bet you they were the healing ones.
Okay. But it was a nudge, and I was in a bookstore,
Yeah.
like a crystal store, and then these cards, and this is how it all started. And these cards, I know people say books fall off shelves. It wasn't as dramatic as that, but it was these cards, and there was no noise. I couldn't hear anything. It wasn't a sensation in my body, which is all, you know, all of that has been amplified now. It was like this pull. I kept coming back to this stack of cards with Doreen Virtue's name and all of her, you know, her oracle cards. And then when I got closer, and then I walked away, looked at some other books, and I kept getting pulled back. And then it was a very, very slight voice, and it said, buy a pack. And it was like, and I was like, really, did I just hear that? Oh, it's my imagination. That's another big question I often get asked, is how do I know it's a voice from somewhere else, or if it's my own imagination? And I can speak about that later, but I thought it was my imagination, but I trusted, and that's a powerful medicine to have. And my trust and my faith amplified as these things started to happen with me, through me. I started to, my faith and my trust just quadrupled, more and more, as these voices came into being. And I will share this story because I know, with your beautiful generosity of saying about how domestic violence can place and still plays a massive part on this planet for a lot of women and some men. So it's not just exclusively women, as we know. As a social worker back then, I'd finished a double shift and I was tired, really, really tired. It was raining. It was February. It was cold, northwest England. It was cold, raining, and I was done. I was spent. And we had just had an intake the day before. We'd had an intake, and as I was getting ready to leave, I literally, Debbie, had my hand on the door handle, and this nudge and this really strong voice said, "Go and check in on this woman." And I remember my whole body said no. My whole body went, no, no, I want to go home. I've had a double shift. I don't want to be here. I've given enough. I've given. And it was, no, you need to go and just speak to her, just be with her. And I trusted that nudge. And I went to speak to this beautiful soul who'd had one of the most horrific domestic violence experiences and journeys that I've ever known in woman. And I sat on the floor with her, and I was with her for about 45 minutes, not long, but for 45 minutes. And I asked, took her a cup of tea, and, asked if there's anything she wanted to share and talk about. She was very closed up, as you can imagine, and shut down.
Yeah.
We stayed with her in some silence. And slowly by slowly, she said a little bit about her life and a little bit more about herself. And then as I was going, and no idea why I said this, as I was going, and I just said, whatever faith and trust you feel you haven't got, you can have some of mine. That's all I said. And I felt that was a little bit, at the time, I thought that was a little bit cheesy. That was a little bit, what is she going to do with that? I felt my statement might not have been received in a good way. And then I asked her, I said, you don't have to, and because of obviously appropriation of touch. And I said, if you want a hug, I'm right here before I leave. And that's when she sat up, she got off her bed, and very gently, very, very gently, very slowly, we hugged. And then I left. And she was with us for a few weeks before she got moved into a different centre.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 10 years, I kid you not, 10 years. I am in a women's empowerment in a university in the north, in my hometown, this university, and we talk about women's empowerment. And this woman was walking towards me. She was stunning. I couldn't take my eyes off her because her beauty was so beautiful. And she was walking towards me, and I thought, God, she's going to walk right into me, because I didn't recognize her at all. And then she stood in front of me and she said, "Hi, Sand." And I said, "Hi." And my brain was I her social worker? Was I her careers guidance counselor? Because I had both of those roles. And she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No, was I your careers guidance counselor?" And she said, "No, you were a social worker when I came." She told me the story. And I was just, different as night and day, just these two different women that I was experiencing. And she said, that night when you came to see me, she'd got pills under the mattress, which is why she was sat on the bed. She was sat there because she had pills. She was going to take her life that night. And she said, and you left. And she said, and she asked her version of God. And she said, give me a sign if I should stay or if I should leave. And you said, you can have my faith and trust. So I was just blown away. And she was this incredible woman that had empowered her own community. And she started to work, not quite in domestic violence, but to have women find voice, find their own empowerment. She started to work in women's empowerment, and her own story, told her own story, because it was such a powerful story. Everything that she had to overcome to leave that situation, especially culturally. Her culture was completely a no-no. You do not leave in this culture. And she did. So that was the strongest. So I really trusted the nudges as we moved on from that place. Yeah.
That's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I love that. It's not often we get the confirmation of a seed that's planted.
Right.
But as you were telling this story, I was feeling like, wow. When you said you left, I thought, this young lady was just integrated with she just so much, and it was just beautiful. Simple acts of kindness can change a human being 150%. Something as simple as a hug gave her enough hope to stay on this planet, and
Mm.
that was her sign. You were the sign. That's one beautiful sign. Laura Manson. Hello, Laura. It's nice to see you from New Zealand. Hello, hello. We do have a question from a Facebook user. You want to dive in?
Absolutely, love to.
Wonderful. So it says, what are your daily practices that keep you in the space as a hollow bone?
Mm.
And they love they're like that accent. Oh my. I know. It really it's soothing. It's soothing, and your voice has this soothingness to it. And for those watching, you can back me up with that. Type it in the chat. Her Sand is definitely just your energy being here in your presence right now. I can feel it. It's just extraordinary. Extraordinary. So I'll let you take over there and
So, Lauren, was it Lauren? Yes.
I'm not sure who asked it. Laura is here,
Oh,
and it just says Facebook user because
okay.
it does. But
To anybody to anybody out there, my daily practice now, and it's been cultivated, I have to say, over the years. Having a daily practice has kept me sane and has kept my feet firmly on this ground. So to keep a hollow bone, and just to have that distinction of so that we're not being run by our thoughts all the time, that we're not being there's a beautiful saying, isn't that, most of us relate to, which is how about we stop letting the tail of the dog, wag the body of the dog? These incessant thoughts that we have all the time. How do we stay on this planet with 2 feet on the earth, when there's so much atrocity as well that's happening on this world? How do we stay a hollow bone? How do we stay sane? How do we stay in love and in gratefulness, Debbie, like your beautiful medicines you talked about earlier? So for me now is, when I wake up in the morning, as there's that beautiful space, I always thank the dream keepers. As a shamanic practitioner, my world is that when the body sleeps, there is a whole new world that comes into play, which is our dreams. So in that dream space, when I go to sleep, I invite the dream keepers. If there's anything that's bothering me and I want clarity in, I invite my ancestors and the dream keepers of the dream space that I'm going to enter to help me with a situation, a challenge that I might have, an answer that I want, clarity, whatever it is. So I use the dream space to continue with my work. So that's one way that I invite all of our listeners to know that there literally is another world that opens up when this body takes its rest, which we call sleep. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do in that beautiful moment between two worlds, I say thank you. I don't know yet what downloads I got. I don't know the answers to any of my questions. I'm not in my logical brain yet, but I always offer gratitude first to the dream keepers and the dream space. Then I open my body. My body gets opened. I literally, stretch my arms out and stretch my body, and I give massive gratitude to God, to spirit, to my guides, to the ancestors, that actually I woke up alive. So I am so grateful to be alive right now. So I start to bank and start to stack gratitude. We live in this beautiful valley where there's a mountain facing. So I always greet my mountain, good morning. And I thank her that I have eyes to see her, and I can just see her. I'm so beautiful and so grateful. And then I start to say all the things I'm grateful for, my husband and my children and my grandchildren and my family and my friends. And then I circle that prayer out. It's like a spinning prayer, and it spins out and it goes wider and it gets stronger and stronger. And in some shamanic practices, in the old magic ways, some could say that's actually casting a spell. We've really misunderstood a lot of the magic on this planet. We kind of got into horror films about it and made it pretty ugly, and that's not the case. So I'm casting this beautiful prayer. We can call it a prayer, an invocation, an intention, that this prayer touches anybody and everybody that needs to feel gratitude today or feel love today. So that's how I start my day. Then I sit up, and then I do my deep meditations, and I go back deep into my body, and I speak to my guides. And I literally have a conversation with them What was the dream space? What do I need to know today? What do I need to be guided with today? And I get my download. So I journal. And before I did all of this, it was very clunky because it sounds now very smooth and it sounds great and I've got it all together. Trust me, it took years to cultivate this practice. And the easiest place is to offer gratitude prayer and journal. And I kept a journal. I was invited by my ancestors to keep a journal to record my dreams. And over time, only over a few weeks, if we record our dreams, because they can be very abstract a lot of the time, because we're bringing the 5-dimensional and beyond into this 3D reality. So it can, why did I see a flying wardrobe? Why did I see a dragon? Why did I see a frog? Why was I scared in this open space? And there's two ways that we can invite our listeners to understand the dream world. If anybody does want this practice, whatever the noun is, so if it's a chair or if it's a river or if it's a flower, and then how you felt about that noun. So what the noun is and what the feeling was that got activated. I was scared of the chair. I was confused about the chair, whatever it is. And over time, you get to see very easily and very quickly, wow, this is a representation of, and I used to get really scared of open spaces. I was scared of the unknown. I was scared of being uncertain. And I had a lot of PTSD in my physical body from my childhood. And so I was scared of open spaces, which had a result of triggering all trauma in my body. But my dreams were able to calm my nervous system down to understand that and be able to, once I've got an understanding of it, then I could actually take into big open spaces and then I actually love the unknown now. So journaling, and then I vision. I have a vision for this world, to have peace and balance on this planet. So all of my work, I literally pull that vision in, and at the beginning of my day, see my day, that somewhere along my day, I'm going to have an opportunity to bring that vision in. And right now, today, the podcast is one of them. So when I knew we were on the podcast today, that was part of my vision. I saw me and you, Debbie, already. I visioned it ahead of time, that we would laugh, we would be moved, and we would have a great time. And that's exactly what's happening now. And then I do breath work, because I'm a one of my practices is a breathwork teacher. So practicing my own breath at the beginning of the day to calm my nervous system, to ground myself. And then I'll have a book. I know this sounds a lot right now, but it isn't. I do this in about 30 minutes. All of this gets taken place over a 30-minute period. I have a book, and I've got several books. So it's, which book? Is it The Prophet? Is it this book? Is it, where am I going to get some wisdom? And my guides guide me. I open the book, and wherever they say stop, and I read a passage. And then that is a really powerful message for me for that day. And all the way through the day, I take time now, and I didn't used to, but I take time now during my day to sit quietly, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And then I have my drum, and my drum, I don't know if people can see behind me, I should say it this way, my drum here
I see it, yeah.
Is she's one of my spirit guides. And I drum sometimes several times a day. I drum during the week. I drum if I'm confused about something. I drum if I need to calm my nervous system. I drum to bring more vision in. I drum to send a prayer. The beat of the drum the acoustic of a drum is one of the oldest ways of communication. If you can imagine, back in the day, there would be a hollow tree and a stick, and to call the community in, it was the first telephone, I guess. The first community telephone was a hollowed tree and a stick, and the tribe and the community would understand by the vigor or the way that the tree was being drummed, what the message was for the community. So it's such an ancient way. The drums are such an ancient part of our history here on Earth, to send out prayers, send out warnings, be in communication with people.
Oh, that's beautiful. I did not know that. And I have a drum. The only thing I mean, I'll be honest, the only thing I know about this drum is when I hit it, I can feel the static energy just shimmer away. And I also I call it a drum shower, or yeah, it's a drum shower. Put it above and just let the sound just shower over.
Mm.
What you just explained, though, now I get it. Now I get it. Okay, now I see why. A shout out to you, Lisa. We are so glad that you are here too. Please, anybody who has any questions, type them right into the chat. We're going to talk about some quantum physics and parallel universes. But really quick, I want to remind everybody that I am on tomorrow with Women Rising, and I just want to give you a quick little excerpt. And I want you to know that Sand is going to be on Women Rising on 5/7. Yes?
Yes.
Do I have
Yes.
that correct? 5/7, which is extraordinary. And I want to say a shout out to Leland. Actually, before I do this, Leland is one of our beautiful combat vet warriors that was on today, teaches breath work. And what I want to tell you is that this is the second time breath work has came up in a very big way right here on Spirituality Gone Wild. And for everyone listening, there's a message here. And Sand is the one to bring it forward because it's a the way that today happened. I have Leland on in the morning, and then I have you on it too, which actually doesn't usually happen because my show's on at 8 a.m. But let me tell you something. What happened here, and everybody, this is important. I want you to hear this. I had opened Friday back up for Leland because he's got an event tomorrow and I wanted to have him on. And just because I hadn't had him on in a minute, and I love you, Leland. He knows that. So I opened it up and all the times became available. So when you booked and I saw it was 2 and I went, I clearly heard it's going to stay. You're not going to change it. It's going to stay. And so I say this because it's so important right now. I listened. I did not change it. I said, okay, all right, I'm going to do that. And now I'm sitting here saying, okay, so there's really some big messages for how everybody can really start getting into their space. Breath work, you're absolutely wonderful. He said, thank you. And Lisa says, Harrowbean says, thank you. This is really interesting. And the other Lisa says, born and raised in Africa, and drums are used and sought out for celebration. So your message is really resonating with them. We'll go back to Women Rising later. I'm going to let you take it away from there because really I much prefer that.
I love you. I love the example though, Debbie. We've just talked about intuition and how to strengthen our intuition. That in which is the bridge between what I call the unseen realms. You know, we can call that heaven, we can call that the cosmos, we can call it the universe, we can call it life herself, right? So, but that intuition is the nudges that we get when we know that something feels off, or we hear a voice, or it's like you start thinking about a friend and then you pick up a call to your friend and she or he is like, oh my God, I can't believe it, I was thinking about you too. So these cosmic waves that are always here on this earth, because everything is, if we can believe that everything is energy, let's do a little bit of science here in case it gets too woo-woo. So we can believe that everything is energy. When they split the atom, you know, those beautiful scientists, and I imagine them all sat around like with their white coats on, and they can't wait to find the matter inside the atom because they are so right. And then they split the atom and there's no thing there. I just love that. I just have these imaginings of what that must have felt like,
Right.
for those
Okay.
scientists who then can't prove. It's like we need matter in order to prove something. Was where we were going back then. What we are proving now more and more is that there's these invisible realms, the energy that exists. We are an energetic being. Everything in our own physiology is energy. So if we're an energetic being and everything around us is energy, then there's got to be some kind of symbiotic, some ecosystem that will find a way to communicate with us. So in breath work, and sorry, just going back to your nudge, you got a nudge, you opened up your, and I saw that it was 8 o'clock, and then when I clicked on this one, I was like, oh, she's got more available right now. I'll take this 2 o'clock one. So, which was wonderful. But your nudge that you got not to shut it down, that's energy. It's an energetic pulse. It's an energetic something that got your attention, that had you then think, oh, I'm not going to shut this down, I'm going to keep this open. But before we get the thought, something else is in the space. This invisibleness that is all around us, whatever we want to call that. And that's where the nudges come from. So you got the nudge, I'm going to keep it open. That was you using your intuition, even if you might have had a little bit of imagination. And to explain it the way I explain it is, God gave us imagination so that we could amplify our intuition.
Oh.
Right? God gave us our imagination so we could amplify our intuition, because our intuition has to be ignited somewhere. And when we're a child and we have that beautiful imagination, it gets shut down at some point in our life, which is such a shame. And I hope now we're doing such a better job as parents or as teachers or as educators than we're with our children, to keep that imagination so alive. Because that imagination part, because she starts to amplify the intuition. So when that intuition starts to kick in, the child or the adult, we get the nudges a little bit more. Have the imagination as we start opening the doors to strengthen intuition. And then once we start to trust our intuition, small little nudges at the beginning, as we start to trust her, she gets strengthened. So the more that we trust her, the more that she gets stronger and stronger. So there's a tipping point, which isn't that long. God, the universe, life doesn't sit around kind of like, yeah, I'm going to make them wait for 10 years. I'm going to wait a couple of decades. It's not like that. It's a benevolent universe. But the more we trust it, the more we practice and we trust and we practice and we trust, it strengthens till there is a tipping point where we know. It moves from imagination, the intuition comes to a deep sense of knowing, like a really deep, I know this to be true. I know this to be accurate. I know that this is a voice. I know to move in this direction today. I know that I'm going to get this job. I know that I know. And in that knowing, this is the way I explain it, is in that deep sense of knowing, you tap into your truest, most highest version of yourself. It's your authentic self. Your intuition is who you really are. It's the spark of God that you are. You're the life force. This body is going to give up at some point, and the flesh kind of goes away, bones back in the ground or given to fire, wherever we're going to do with this body. But the aspect of our soul is alive. It's never ending, because it's an aspect of God. So the more that we can trust this universe and trust the if you like, the mechanics of the energy that is here, and trust a different form of communication, then, oh my, could you imagine, Debbie, when we're at that place where we're ready to take the last breath on this earth, but because we know, we have this deep knowing that we are one with everything, that this body is just a body, but we are going to continue, then that is part of the journey of really understanding our intuition. That's how strong it can be, that your intuition, you know that there's less, it drops all the old stories and the old patterns, and the strength of the authentic self starts to emerge, and we start to live more and more authentically, because we say things like, maybe I don't want to do coffee today. Maybe I don't want to do coffee ever. And I'm not going to put that out there, because I'm in America and I would never do that to the American people. Take coffee away from anybody. I'm a tea drinker myself. So, but the more we start to trust that, and trust the nudges, and trust the voices, trust the communication, we are literally merging with, or at least understanding and listening and hearing and moving as intended, as soul, as the authentic self, is the higher self, more and more and more. So that's one way of describing, just from you saying, I opened up, Sand grabbed a 2 o'clock slot, it shouldn't meant to be, I trusted it, and here we are.
you've said so many powerful, powerful things. Again, everybody, please type your questions in the chat. God gave us our imagination so we could amplify our intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just incredible. So I think the bigger question comes in when we question ourselves. And what is that process so that we can really do step in with trusting? One of the things I'm kind of leaning towards, you don't seem to have an attachment to anything or not to an outcome, not to the process. You just have this knowingness. But I know for myself, I mean, even I'll question me. I'll question what's going on. I'll question this, question that. And sometimes not trust what I'm hearing. So how do we know the difference between the two? The voice that we think that we're hearing that tells me I want that scratcher in that store. Why not? Because let's face it, we I was being kind of silly about that, but really, honestly, that real, you have a situation happening in your life, and we all do, and I've learned that calling somebody probably isn't the thing to do. Calling up source energy, God source energy within me, but then I hear this voice. Is that my ego saying, because I want to do this thing, and I give myself my way, or so I'll let you take it.
It's a practice and it's a journey. I have to say that. So at the beginning of my own journey, I was constantly questioning. I'm making this up. This is me. I'm just making this up. In the practice, if you continue with that practice, there becomes it's like a very subtle, qualitative difference between the voice of sand and the voice of something else. And it's very subtle, and I'm sure some of the your listeners here, Debbie, have had the different those different experiences. And this is one way, an easy way to describe it is, if we've ever had a nudge, a voice, a whisper, let's call it a nudge because that's kind of one of the biggest words we use out there. I got a nudge, and we didn't follow through. What happened? And every single person I speak to, when it was that nudge and they didn't take it seriously, or they didn't follow through, including myself, thousands of times, if we didn't follow that nudge, what happened? And ultimately we're led with, and we say words like, I knew I shouldn't have done this, or I knew I should have done that. And that's the knowing. When we get to the end of that road, because we make a choice, and remember, we have free will, so we've got free will. So, and God, the universe, ancestors, like, okay, you still have free will. We can nudge you all we like, but you still have the superpower of your own free will. So when we've chosen, which is literally free will, we choose not to listen to that nudge, and we go along our merry way. It more often than not, and certainly in my experience, it's every single time, it doesn't work out well. And then I get reminded, and here's this is the little bell here. The universe is so benevolent. She reminds us with a little bell, this little bell, and we say, like I just give the example, I knew I should have done that. I knew it was going to end up like, I knew. That little extra nudge is the universe saying, we're not nudging you to shame you. We're not nudging you to make you wrong. The nudge isn't here to make you feel bad. The nudge is to remind you of, do you remember what it felt like when we nudged you ahead of time up here? Do you remember that? How did it feel? How was it felt in your body? How did you know that there was a nudge here? And it doesn't matter which direction you go in, but just we're reminding you that you heard us. You felt that nudge in some shape or form, and you chose option A when we were probably nudging you for option B. So it was just a choice point, your free will. And then it reminds us. And when we know that it works, and we do follow the nudge, and we go, oh, this is magical. And it tends to be a little bit better than what we can even imagine. It's like, oh, I got a phone call. Yeah, I got a nudge to ring a girlfriend. In that moment, you're just ringing a girlfriend. But when you pick up the phone and she says, or he says, one of your friends says, oh my God, I was just thinking of you, or I really needed to hear a friend right now. That nudge now gets amplified in the field, and there's a justification, not a justification, sorry, that's my word. They're nudging me going, that's not what we said. There's a validation to what we just, so it's we get validated, which is another way of saying we got amplified in that moment that we took that nudge. So what my understanding is the more that amplification happens and the more we keep taking it, that's when our intuition gets stronger and stronger, meaning the hollow bone gets more and more hollow, and we get to hear and feel those nudges. And before we know it, we're in the flow of life, which is a beautiful thing, to be in the flow of life, getting a nudge here and a whisper here. You get downloads. You start getting the visions. I got a download 6 months before the pandemic. We even knew the word pandemic in the way that we know it now, to take my work online. Now, I was doing shamanic ancestral breathwork journeys all over the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I was like, take this online? No. And after all these years, even, I still questioned it. And it was like, no, that's not good. That's not going to work. How can that possibly be? I get people lying on the floor and I touch them and I'm with them. And how can we go inside a computer? And here we are 2.5 years later with a beautiful, successful offering to the world of on Zoom calls to do ancestral breathwork journeys. So I call my little Sand, who doesn't believe or who will question. And that little Sand she questions it because she's still part very much of her personality or the old patterns and old thinkings. It's her thoughts. And so when I put little Sand down and I open to, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, and little Sand is scared. She's like, I don't know if this is going to work, so I'm really scared. And admit to myself that journey, and then it opens up, and I go, wow, look what happened, and then back into the depth of gratitude. Thank you for nudging me, and I'm so grateful that I played my part, that I followed your nudges, even though I wasn't quite believing you. I will follow your nudges, because I know that when you nudge me, that something magical happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
The magical nudge. The magical nudge. I am so excited by this. I cannot believe we're already coming up to the top of the hour. What I want to do is take a dive. We need to have you back, number one, because there's just there's so much more to get into. So there's so much more to talk about. You are going to be on Women Rising on Unify on 5/7, which is going to be an exciting thing. Everybody, please watch for that. But I'd really like to know about your offerings, and I'd really love to know, how do people work with you, and what is the best way for them to I've been putting links in the chat, so you all know the links are there. They're up in the description. But what is the offering that you have going on right now?
What I'd love to offer your audience, for spending some time with me today, I would love to offer, I have two love gifts for your audience. And all that they need to do is connect with me here on Instagram or Facebook and let me know that they were on Debbie's show, and we can, or actually be in your show notes, won't it, Debbie? Of course, in the show notes there'll be a link. And the first one is a beautiful, very powerful meditation visualization in connecting with our ancestors. And this meditation visualization has been crafted over many years. And there's a vibrational frequency to this particular meditation and visualization. So it's for people who are new to work with ancestors, who've never worked with their ancestors before. It's for seasoned practitioners as well, because there's a vibrational frequency that's being transmitted in the meditation and the visualization. And if people have been working with their ancestors a while, then you might want to start working with your ancient ancestors, the ancient ancestors that carry codes that want to be activated now on our planet. So so that's a beautiful gift that we have. Excuse me. And then the second gift is an ebook, a beautiful ebook, very simple, in how to create an ancestral altar in your home. So if there's anybody that's been ignited who wants to excuse me, who wants to say, I want to start working with my ancestors. How do I do that? Then building a very simple altar is a first starting place. And in case that opened up any questions of how do I start working with my ancestors, the ancestors will say this in a simple but profound way: invite us into your space. And I used to say, close your eyes and think of your ancestors, and we don't even have to close our eyes. If there is a particular ancestor that you love and they loved you, then call on that healed ancestor, because that love is the communication for them to come into your life. And you can have a journal, you can ask questions, and you can just journal, what would they say this? And if we practice, and within sometimes just a few hours or sometimes just a few days, that amplification of the presence of that ancestor will come to you, and you can build a very strong relationship with that ancestor. And I do want to say this, Debbie, because I think it's important to say into the space. For some people, working with ancestors can sound a little scary, and especially if there's been ancestors in our lineage that weren't very nice, or that hurt us, or hurt one of our parents or somebody in our life. So we don't call on those ancestors. We call only on the ancestors that we had a good relationship with, and which I call our healed ancestors, the ones that knew how to love us, the ones that we felt safe with. And if there's an ancestor, and if we don't have that in our field, and we don't know, because obviously for some of us, we might not even know our birth parents. That doesn't matter necessarily in this particular way, because you can call on your healed ancestors and just trust, with that trust and faith, call them forth. Say, I don't know who you are, but I trust and I have faith that you will come to me. And I'm calling on my healed ancestors, the ones that can help, the ones that are here, that are here on this earth, part of this earth, to help me in my life right now. That's the healed ancestor that I'm calling on right now. And so those ancestors, or that ancestor, will start to make itself known to you very quickly. Yeah, they don't make it hard. Truly, they don't. Yeah.
I am so excited about that.
And the last offering, sorry, Debbie, the last offering we have for you is, if there's any, and again, we'll send all this to you, Debbie. We have our ancestral breathwork journeys that we've put back out to the public now. They've been behind the walls of our programs for a couple of years, and the ancestors have said, we've got to get out there again. So we're going back out, and that's the ancestral breathwork journeys. And the folks will see that on Instagram for sure, and on Facebook. But if you want a free offer, we want to give you a free seat to come to an ancestral journey, and Debbie will have the details of that when you connect with Debbie in the show notes. And we'd love to offer that, an ancestral breathwork journey experience on us. You'll be our VIP guest for that day, and it's twice a month on the new moons and the full moons, 6 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. There isn't a recording, I have to say that, because the transmissions and the ancestors said not to have a recording, so you do have to show up live so you get the full transmission of that. And Debbie will have the details in the show notes for you.
I absolutely will. Actually, we do have them. If everybody pays attention, it's right here. Okay, so you can click right here, or you can go to the website, which is floating right across the screen. Sand. Jeez, I am just I'm honored to know you. You are such a blessing. You have brought such valuable information forward today. How to tap into your intuition. What is it like to really be able to step in and listen to yourself? So much more. My gratitude is just so enormous for you. Thank you for explaining how to have a hollow bone and how to really step into creating a morning practice that puts you in the state and flow of appreciation and gratitude for where your life sits right now. So if anybody's just joining us, or you're just now seeing this, and this is the part you're seeing, go back to the beginning. Watch all of it. Watch the practice tips that you're going to get. And if you put these tools in practice, you're going to see your life reflect what you're putting into it. So, Sand, do you have any last words before we head out?
I'm full with gratitude, Debbie. I'm honored to meet you. Seriously, this is a love fest right now. To be on your show and to be with your community. Thank you so much for having me. and I'd love to come back. And I hope people start to tap into this, the ancestors that are here as an energetic force, an energetic field to really help the individuals and our humanity through these unprecedented times. There is so much love and so much help and so much guidance and healing waiting for us if we just invite and know how to access. Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you everybody for showing up at this special time. You're probably going to see this show up in your email as well and everywhere else. I'm going to end it with Women Rising to remind you guys that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Unify, Spirituality Gone Wild, and all over the other networks that we're on, you will see all of us. Quantum Fitness, Jessica Alstrom is coming, and Jess is somebody I know, and Jess is just incredible. She's cool beans. And Jan is coming. She's going to teach us all about the cooch ball. It's this is actually, Stan, I am so excited to learn about how to take better care of our sensuality and our bodies in the feminine sense. So I'm really pretty stoked. I will see you again. Watch for Sand to be back because we have so much more to dig into. And I'm going to leave you with just the outro for Women Rising to give you the vibration and why you should be there tomorrow. Bye, everybody.